Hey everyone, welcome back to BrowncoatNerd. This is going to be kind of a follow-up video on the Zastava M92. I did unknowingly a part one, I guess, about 2 years ago on this gun. And since then, Zastava USA has started importing these. This was imported by CAI, or Century Arms International. And once Zastava USA started importing them, they slowly started to offer some more features, and they're getting in kind of the slightly different setup than how we previously got these. Now, I'm going to be talking specifically just about the M92 here. I'm not going to go over all the other AK variants that they have that are importing, because I'm sure lots of changes have gone over with those as well. So essentially, a few years ago, before the ZPAPs, the Zastava USAs were around, as far as Yugo or Serbian AKs, you had the NPAP and the OPAP. The OPAP was a 1.5 millimeter receiver and had a reinforced trunnion on that, or the RPK style trunnion. Whereas the NPAP, which I guess you could say is this here, it only had a 1 millimeter thick receiver. It did not have the reinforced bulge trunnion on that, and that's how we see it here. And the other thing I really wanted to make this video to clarify some of the changes. We've got a whole bunch of new gun owners, and the Yugo or Serbian or Zastava AKs are kind of some of the most readily available right now. So I foresee a lot of new gun owners getting a Zastava as their first gun, or one of these pistol AKs from them, and kind of trying to come across a lot of confusion with this. So that was your NPAP was kind of your standard AK setup as far as the receiver and the trunnion. And just so you know, if you're curious if yours has the reinforced or RPK style trunnion, you can tell rather simply by this little bulge here. This is a Russian Malat Vepr. It's not a Zastava, but it's it's the same thing. So here you see bulge, here want no bulge. Now, as far as some people are like, oh, don't mess with anything that doesn't have the reinforced trunnion. I mean, it's 7.62 by 39. It can handle it. The standard setup here can handle it just fine. It's really not needed, but at the same time, I mean, it is better, but not necessarily needed. So when Century Arms International was importing these, the M92 came in with the 1.0 millimeter thick receiver, your standard trunnion, and a non-chrome lined barrel. Now, back then, there was a lot of people going around saying that the M92 did have that 1.5 receiver, had the reinforced trunnion, and a chrome lined barrel, but it does not. There's a helicopter flying overhead right now. But the reason there was the confusion was the M85, like I said, is essentially the same setup of AK pistol, but just chambered in 5.56. Those ones did have that 1.5 millimeter thick receiver. It did have the bulge trunnion, and it did have a chrome-lined barrel. So a lot of people were thinking that was just kind of how it was across the board. But simply back then, you could just kind of tell which one it was by the caliber. Now, Zastava USA started importing these, I think about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer ago than that. And they at first started importing them with basically the setup that they've been coming in before from Century Arms. But then they started offering the M92. I believe they call it the ZPAP 92. So if you have a ZPAP that's imported by Zastava USA, most likely it is that 1.5 millimeter receiver with the bulge trunnion, because it seems like they're all coming in that way now. But it does not guarantee you it's not just the standard setup here, because when they first started importing them, they did import them that way, and they still called it a ZPAP. So like the MPAP or OPAP, you can tell specifically what receiver you have and what trunnion you have. But then the ZPAP is kind of more just a commercial term on those, because it's basically all the ZPAP tells you is that it was imported by Zastava USA rather than Century Arms. So you can't see ZPAP and be like, oh, it's got the thicker receiver and thicker trunnion. So it can go either way with the ZPAP labeling. So they first started importing them like this, but then they started importing the M92 or ZPAP 92 in with that 1.5 millimeter receiver with a reinforced trunnion and with a chrome lined barrel. So I'm seeing a lot of people, you know, trying to say, oh, that doesn't have all those features. Well, actually, the new ones, they do. And also, you know, if you watch my original video on this, I'm going to be telling you if you have 7.62 by 39, it only comes in this setup. Because at the time, it was true. But they've changed that. And my personal feeling on this, especially when it comes to the AK pistol setup here, not having that thicker receiver, not having that thicker trunnion, it's going to reduce weight a little bit. I mean, it's already a light gun. It doesn't need to be heavy. On the other hand, it probably doesn't add that much weight. And also maybe, you know, it might be a little more controllable with recoil if there's more, you know, weight with it. Now, I will say the chrome line barrel for me, I'm OCD. I clean most of my guns usually right after I shoot them. I'm usually pretty good at that. And in that case, you know, the chrome line barrel doesn't really matter. And on top of that, I rarely am able to shoot corrosive ammo because I'm usually stuck in an indoor range. That typically, you know, most of your corrosive ammo is not allowed there because it's going to be steel core. So the chrome line barrel's never really been a huge issue for me. Some people will argue if it's not a chrome line barrel, you can get a little more accuracy out of it. Man, I'm not that good of a shot I wouldn't be able to notice. Now, I will say that if you do have a chrome line barrel, it is, I find, a little bit easier and quicker to clean. So that's, you know, convenient. It's nice. For me, a chrome line barrel, it's not a must-have. But at the same time, if it does have that, I do consider that, you know, a plus. So if you get one of the newer ones from Zastava USA and you have that bulge trunnion, just know with that bulge trunnion, you do have that thicker receiver, and you do have a chrome lined barrel. Now this particular one that I bought, like I said, let's see, it was September of 2017. I purchased it from Classic Firearms. It did not come in this setup. It was like a little kit that I purchased with it. And that did come with a booster. It came with the world's ugliest arm brace, but it works. And I was going to do this video a while ago, but then I kind of postponed it because I was scared it was going to be a video on, remember before arm braces were illegal? Whew, got a little sweaty there for a second, but luckily it looks like the ATF has backed off on that, so we have arm braces for now. The original grip that was on here is this guy here. And I'll go over these changes. Came with just your standard wood furniture that was completely unfinished. And it did come with two of the old school military Zastava bolt hold open mags. So I just kind of want to change the setup a little bit so you guys could see something a little different from the first video. This arm brace will be going right back on there. I was kind of curious to see how it looked without the arm brace because, I mean, as soon as I got this, back in 2017, the arm brace came on, the thread protector came off. I couldn't find the thread protector. I did save it somewhere. I've always planned on like cutting a little notch in it and just kind of setting it up so I have a thread protector if I should ever want to use this. Like I already have that piece. I can make it into one, so why not, I guess. Put a Polish standard AK grip on here. I did have to kind of file out some material from right here because these Zastava screw. The head's a little bit bigger. Hindsight, I probably should have done this with my Lynx 12 grip that I'm not using because it looks the same. It's not, the texture is not as good, but it looks the same, and it's Chinese and not Polish, but oh well, too late now. I never really cared for the Zastava style grips. And so I was kind of eager to get rid of this. I just threw this on here because I've been kind of cleaning out the junk drawer lately. And one weird thing I noticed about this grip, when I took it off and I put this one on there, I was looking at this, I'm like, why does this grip seem familiar all of a sudden? So, I've been making several videos on my Set Me L lately. I mean, it's not obviously identical, but pretty rootin' tootin' close, right? I do much prefer the Set-Me L grip. So now I'm like, ooh, how can I file this down and get this on the Zastava? I'm not going to do that. But it was a fun thought. And so then I just threw in this AC Unity mag. Give ourselves a little different look. These come out of Serbia, so, you know, hey, it's fitting. These are also bolt hold open. They have the bolt hold open follower. I know some people hate those. I like them because then I know when it's the last round, I'm not going to count them. Don't ask me how these function because I haven't used them yet. I just plan on using them as a range mag. I got these dirt cheap already finished, so don't ask me what stain it is because I have no clue. I bought them that way. Okay, and then, yeah, this little booster, which doesn't really do anything other than shaping your fireball in more of a straight line, so it's not so much in your line of sight. It's not really a flash hider. It doesn't reduce recoil. It actually adds a little bit to recoil. But yeah, let me get some of my Zastava paraphernalia out of here. Okay, so just wanted to touch on those little changes there real quick with you guys. So like I said, this kit came with the arm brace. It came with the booster and 2 mags. I paid $620 for that back in September of 2017 from Classic Firearms. And that's the other thing I see people kind of freaking out about on these lately is they're looking at the price and they're like, holy cow, what the hell? So I just jumped on Classic real quick right before making this video. They have a very similar kit to what this was. Comes with an arm brace. I forget the brand, but it's a much better looking arm brace. Comes with is either a flash hider or a muzzle brake, but an actual more functional muzzle device than just the booster. I want to say it comes with the newer Zastava polymer mags. I don't think it had the metal ones there. And then also it had the quad rail up here on the furniture for the handguard. And that was going for $1,300. Now, you know, it's 2021 right now, February. We've got the whole COOF thing going on. So gun prices are crazy high. And so you can attribute some of it to that. But you also need to remember that this newer one has that 1.5 millimeter receiver. It has the RPK style trunnion, and it has the chrome lined barrel. So it's not just simply a gun whose price just got doubled overnight. It's a slightly more durable setup. Not that this one isn't durable. Yeah, Q and all the metal, soft metal receivers from the Zastavas. I've looked into that a bunch. And from what I can find, that there definitely was a case of that, but it was kind of a bad batch situation that was not across the board. Michiko has a good video on it, so if you want to fight me, I'll just refer you to Michiko. And if you don't think he knows what he's talking about, he does, and then at that point, I don't care what you say. The other thing I will say is the newer ones, they're coming in with a lot of options, especially on the handguard. Like I said, the kit that I found for $1,300 I had the quad rail on it. I'm not sure what brand. You do not see the wood come in just bare like it used to in the blonde. Like this, I have not seen any of them come in with just the blonde furniture. Some of them will still have the wood furniture on it, but it'll either be stained to dark brown. And I've seen some people complain about that stain, you know, saying as soon as they got it wet, the dye just came right off. And that's, you know, that's not a huge deal. You could, you know, might have to deal with the hassle of, you know, sanding it and restaining it, but they originally came with no finish whatsoever, so it's kind of the same boat there. And then I've seen some other ones come in with the wood handguards. They're like painted black, and they're fracking ugly. So those are out there too, just so you know. And also you'll see different options with like 1911 or pick rails up here, which I think is really nice. I definitely wish this one had that feature. And they do have little kits for these styles where you can, you know, drill and tap them and install those rails. I would have preferred that Zastava USA did that, or Zastava in Serbia did that, whoever's putting on that rail, rather than me, because God knows I'll get it on there crooked. Oh, and the other upgrade to this, sorry, I almost forgot, is the extended charging handle here. Threw that on there. I did take quite a bit of material off behind it, just so it would not rub on the safety when I lock it into that little bolt hold open notch there. You can kind of see where some finish did come off with me playing with that. It looked like it only needed a little material removed, but I ended up removing quite a bit. But it does not rub anymore. So if you want to install one of those, just be mindful of that. So I just want to make this video to point out that, yes, in my first video, I said there was no 7.62x39 M92s with the thicker receiver, trunnion, and chrome line barrel. Want to make sure you guys know, if you got one of these from Zastava USA, you do have a very good chance of having those features that were not available before. Also, when you're looking at the price and you're like, oh God, why is it so much more expensive? Keep that in mind. It is, you know, they did put more money into making these, as well as, like I said, that kit. All the stuff it came with, that this kit came with, was just basically better stuff as well on top of that, you know. And the prices of these did go up, you know, as soon as Zastava USA started offering them. But the fit and finish seemed a little bit better. You know, they're making them at the Zastava factory a little bit better and a little bit more durable for the commercial market. So that's all going to kind of play in with the cost. One other thing I wanted to touch on, I'm pretty sure I failed to do it in my original video, was the trigger pull weight, because I really suck at remembering to do that. And actually, at the time, I don't think I even had the my Lyman trigger pull gauge yet. So I went ahead and did 5 pulls. The average of those 5 pulls was a shocking 2 pounds, 8 ounces. I was like, whoa, I don't remember it being that light. And then, you know, I dry fired it, and I really like this trigger. Now, the other thing to note, too, this is mostly for, you know, our newer gun owners here. Any rifle that comes into the U.S. has to follow 922R compliance, which means it has to have so many American-made parts, and certain parts have more points than others. So a lot of times they'll throw in a USA mag, you get 3 points right there. The furniture typically is U.S. made. A lot of times you'll find, you know, U.S. made grips on them. The trigger groups tend to be U.S. made. The piston tends to be U.S. made. But the cool thing about this is, since this is a handgun, it does not have to follow 922R compliance. So this wood is from Serbia. This trigger group is the Zastava trigger group. The piston is the Zastava, you know, piston installed in Serbia. So it didn't have to have all those American-made parts on there. Also, since it's a handgun, it can come in ready to accept double-stack mags. Typically, they'll come, the full-size rifles will come in with a single-stack mag, and then they'll open up the mag well in the U.S. so it can accept double-stack mags. And that's how stupid the laws are. You know, it's pretty crappy. So, and that's the other thing I think Zastava did really want to set up Zastava USA is they're having some kind of issues with Century Arms, and you know, Century opening up the mag wells. There are some issues. For the most part, it seemed good, but I saw quite a few horror stories, and Zastava just wanted to have a little more control over that because they knew they had a good product. So yeah, and you know, like I said, that trigger, it is nice. 2 pounds, 8 ounces, and it's not a Tapco G2 or anything like that. That's just your Zastava trigger group. All right, guys, I think I covered everything I wanted to touch on this. Yeah. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I've probably got a few more that you may like. All right, stay shiny.